was it?
It was good.
It was good.
Have you been down there? It was
What are you eating?
French onions.
There's 6 parts to it. There's
Let's see. Business. There's that's what they were there for.
Okay.
So we've been kind of out and about around the community.
That's good.
It's been a lot of fun.
It has been. And so now we're getting sort of into the meat of the project. We're kind of starting to write and form our outline and stuff. And so basically what we're doing is we're writing the religion chapter. And it's basically just, people's experience, how they feel about religion, what they think about church, just your personal experiences. And, when Phyllis told us, you're a practicing Catholic, right? So when Phyllis told us that, we were like, that's really interesting because you don't find so many
Catholic in this world.
Catholics. So, and we just thought that was interesting. So we figured we'd talk to you. I mean, you probably have more than, just the Catholic view, because I'm sure you've been to the traditional black church. But anyway, so we just have a few questions to ask, and we're just going to have a conversation.
One of my first questions, I'm from Pickle High, which is just east of here, and it's like a really predominantly Catholic area. So I mean, like, the Catholic Church is like, majority of the community, probably about half at least, is Catholic. And I didn't so it's a real strong presence, and I haven't really noticed that here in Muncie. I mean, like, how involved, I guess, in the community is the Catholic Church in Muncie? Like, are there festivals? And
I think that they do, but I think the Catholic churches in Muncie, they don't. A lot of Catholic churches that I've seen, they kind of work together and then work out. But here, we've got 3 main Catholic churches, and one, which is St. Francis, is just predominantly students. I mean, there's a lot of students. It's a little bit less traditional than, say, your average Catholic church, I guess. Then there's St. Mary's, which is like very strict Catholic.
that's one on Jackson.
Right,
Okay.
right. And then there's St. Francis. I'm sorry, St. Lawrence is another. And they're their school is out like more on the south side of town. So I think they reach people more like on the south, and then, but it's more of a rural. I mean, a lot of people who are, they don't necessarily, you can call Muncie a city. It seems like everyone around, there would be a good mixture, but it seems like a lot of the people who attend the Catholic churches here are from the suburbs.
Huh. That is interesting.
Yeah, like your Yorktown area is more on the west side of town. So, but they don't really, and I think they do a lot more things collaboratively, like they might host a chili dinner or something like that, but I think each of the churches play a specific role, I guess, and so it looks like they don't work together, but they do work together. They just all focus on a certain population.
They have like my hometown, like there's two parishes. We're not a very big city, but like St. Mary's has like a festival in the spring, and St. Boniface has one in the fall. Like, just kind of like the kick off the spring, kick off the fall. I mean, is there anything like that where?
Yeah, but I think it's more. My experience here is that a lot of people, if you say you're Catholic, they're automatically like turned off, like it's a cult or something.
Really?
I mean, if you ask the average person, well, what are you? And I say I'm Catholic. And it's like, oh, so you just stand up, kneel. And basically that's all people are. We're some kind of strange cult that, practices all these weird, we have all these weird sacraments, and it's like, how do you worship? How do you get into it? Type thing. So I think here, it's really odd. I think it's really approached differently because, I think when you go like to larger cities, even to Indianapolis, you'll see just all different types of people going to a Catholic church. And a lot of people who aren't Catholic going to Catholic schools, elementary schools, and things like that. I don't think it really happens here.
So there really is. I mean, like, when we were at Middletown, there's actually a section, they mentioned that, this is 1920s, of course, but a man was thinking of converting to Catholicism, and then the Klan got hold of it and kind of, less than gently persuaded him not to. I mean, is there still a stigma attached? Like you said,
I just think there's a misunderstanding.
This is a real big Protestant. Like, we don't find, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of Protestant churches. Muncie's full of churches.
We're saturated with churches. Saturated. We have more churches than the population. And even if you look in the Muncie Times now, and you look at all the black churches, there's like 30 black churches. You know, so we're saturated with churches, but I think there's just a misunderstanding generally of Catholicism. At least that's been my approach, and especially being African American, they're like,
so
wait a minute, how did you get into that?
Yeah, how did you? I mean, did you grow up Catholic? Were your parents Catholic, or?
My situation was a little different. My parents are still together, but my father was raised Baptist, and my mother was raised Catholic, and they basically gave us the option. We're not going to kind of force feed you our religion or what we think you ought to do. We're going to let you make that decision for yourself. I went to Catholic school from 1st to 8th grade, so I really kind of just, I guess the whole experience kind of matched more, I say, with my personality more so than any other church, and I felt more at home and more comfortable there. So we went to church, and I've been like to Baptist church and things like that with my dad, but I just happened to latch on to Catholicism.
So, like, as far as like comfort, because obviously black churches are really like high energy. The music is high energy. Everything's just energy everywhere. Do you think that people choose like that Catholicism appeals to your personality? Is that because it's kind of more calm and quiet and kind of strict order? Is that how you like things, or is it?
To me, it's not really strict order. I think you're given an opportunity to reflect. I think it's all in perception. You can be excited and not necessarily show your excitement. Or I like a lot of time to kind of think and reflect and say, okay, what is this saying? And kind of too much, I don't want to say too much distraction, because I think we all worship in our saying, in different ways. But I like the kind of, I'm just going to put the word out, as far as like our priest can say, okay, this is the homily, I'm going to say it in 15 minutes, and I'm going to feed you, and it be concise and to the point. And I'm not going in 60 different circles, and then by the time by the time the pastor sits down, it's kind of like, okay, where's it going? Right, where do we start off? So, I mean, it really works well. I like the fact that I can go and have communion every day. It doesn't have to be a special day for me to receive communion. I don't have to wait till the 3rd Sunday of the month. I like the fact that, I'm able to do that. I like the fact that, to me, a Catholic church is more, it's open, like during the day. For example, if I wanted to go and pray right now, I could go to one of the churches and do that.
Are they open like 24/7?
They do lock them up during the nighttime, but I mean, a lot of the priests live, on the parish site, so it's nothing just to go to the rectory and say, can I use the room here, or can you unlock the church? So I think there's a little bit more accessibility as far as the church.
Have you, being black and going to a Catholic church, has there been any like tension? Have you felt any tension at any point? Like, do people usually accept you well, or how does that?
Overall, I think definitely, there's been an acceptance level. Like I said, I went to Catholic school up until 8th grade and had no idea what prejudice was. You know, I was never called a nigger. I was, you know, like, you're different than me. Why are you here? So there, you know, I've been accepted. And it's a special case here. But if I went to Indianapolis, I could go to an all-black Catholic church.
Yeah.
You know, it's nothing.
What about even like my mom's parents growing up? They were, you know, Protestant, and they didn't want like their kids dating the Catholic boys. Well, I mean, like, this was when they were growing up. It turns out my mom's youngest sister ended up marrying a Catholic man, and I mean, like, so obviously that changed over time. I mean, is there anything like that from the older generation? Like, have you ever run into that? I guess even I had that, like, hanging out and dating Catholic girls. You know, like sometimes the parents were a little bit, oh, what's the Protestant?
Yeah,
boy?
like,
you know,
they're gonna make you,
like they take
you're
all the
gonna
beer
have
out
to
of the
transform.
fridge. When we came in the house, they took the beer from the fridge. You know, I mean, just kind of like a little bit of. I mean, did you ever run into any of that?
There's definitely, I think when you, like, I think it's just all misunderstanding, you know, even, you know, if you date someone and they're like, you start thinking, well, I don't want to be Catholic, you know, so it's like the whole relationship is off because you're going to ask me to convert, you know, but I think it's,
They do that.
there's definitely, I think there's a lot of stereotypes. I think, you know, just like, you know, all you do is get drunk. You know, you guys are a religion. Your priest gets up there and he's drinking with you guys too. But I do think that there's, as an outsider, you know, if I wasn't in the religion and I was, you know, to kind of see, you know, what goes on there, you know, you might say, what's going on? But it's not a. I don't think it's a...
As far as the other way around, now, how about black people accepting you as a Catholic?
If people ask me, for example, a lot of things, especially in the African American community, focus around church. And if they don't see you at church, then they just assume that you don't go to church. Yeah. Or you're atheist, or you know what's wrong with you? Your parents didn't raise you right, whatever. But it's kind of like if I'm in a, you know, if I'm working with a group and I say, oh well, I can take that information to your church. Well, what church do you go to? Well, St. Francis. Well, what? What is that? What kind of church is that? But I don't know. I guess it's more of a lot of just, it's our hub in our community. You know, that's one place where everyone goes that you can kind of get the information about what's going on in the community. You know, you see your friends there. It's an opportunity for you to kind of get together and join, you know, and church gives you a reason. I mean, church is that socialization point in our community, you know. So from that point, it's kind of difficult because I'm not really connected. It's like, well, I guess they assume, I don't really expect people, you know, if I said, well, do you want to come to my church? They'll be like, I don't want to, all you do is stand up, sit down and eat. Stand up, sit down and eat. But I don't think, and then I think that kind of is, it causes a little bit of friction because you just automatically assume that I don't want to experience the same thing, or, you know, that I don't know what's going on. So I think it does. I think it's a crucial part of just our lifestyle, especially here in Muncie, is the church. That's why we've got 27 churches, you know, black churches in Muncie.
Is there any do the Catholic churches in Muncie outreach to the African American community? I mean, like take out, say, an article in Muncie Times to like try to get people to come to church?
No, and I don't know. We've got a few. You know, I'm not the only black Catholic in Muncie. We do have a few, and I think it's a little bit easier now, especially since Hispanic, you know, we're having a greater Hispanic population. So, you know, they're coming to Mass. So there is a little color, you know, in the church. But I think it's just hard. I think there's just a stigma, you know, that it's not truly understood, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, and it's really hard to kind of knock down those barriers, and you know, and I think that our pastor, you know, he works with other pastors within the community.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to assume and say that they're probably not black churches here. The pastors are, unless it's like the concerned clergy as a group, you know.
You say they do work like or citywide church and stuff like that?
Yeah, there is like a concerned clergy organization where all the pastors and everything get together. So. And he's a part of that. But as far as, you know, outreaching and definitely, you know, and saying, this is, you know, here we are, we're here to help you. You know, I don't know if that really happens or not. And I think if you look at it, a lot of churches who do outreach in those areas, they're in like a predominantly black community or a predominantly Hispanic community, and there's really no, like in the predominantly black areas in Muncie, you've got like all the Baptist churches and the, you know, the other denominations, and there's no room, you know. And it's hard to do outreach, I think, if you're not in the specific area, you know.
Or if you don't have a personal invested interest in that.
Right.
You know, if you know, over half of your congregation is made up of white people that aren't concerned about those kind of issues, then that's why, you know, spend your time and energy, being concerned about those issues.
Right.
But if you're a black church and you're in that every day, and those are your people, and they are the one, your congregants. That's your word. That's his new word.
Congregants.
I was introduced to the word by Bishop Milman.
If that's what they're interested in, then you're going to invest more time and energy into that.
Exactly.
So it's just kind of like
Exactly. And I don't know, honestly, it's good to try, but I think if I was shot down, you know, a lot of different times, like I've asked people to come, people that I've known, my best friend who I've known for all of my life has yet to come to church with me.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've got with my friends, you know, Catholic church. Was it that they're uncomfortable, or? Or I mean.
Well, are you Catholic? When you think of Catholics, would you think stand up, sit down?
yeah, because I have some Catholic friends. Actually, my half sister's Catholic, so I mean, I am. Like when you were saying about all the sacraments, all the rules, and you have to keep these little certain. It's kind of like, you know, religion shouldn't. That's how most black people think about religion. It shouldn't be so. If the spirit moves, let it move.
Right.
If you want to shout, just let it happen.
Right.
That's how black churches happen. But I don't know. It's just. I would go to a Catholic church. I wouldn't have a problem going. But.
But like prom, I mean, that's when, you know, like before dances, that's where I'd end up a lot of times, you know, go to mass before like a dance. That way did you like ever take dates there?
You went to mass? You went to mass on a date?
No. Like, it's so they didn't have to get up on Sunday and go to mass.
Oh, okay.
We'd go, like, it was just a tradition, like, everyone would be there in their, you know, this is really kind of funny, everyone would be in their tuxes. And, you know, when everyone is kneeling to pray, none of them told us to kneel. So out of about 200 people, everyone goes down, up pops about the 6 Protestant boys in the congregation, all kind of looking around like, what are we supposed to be doing?
What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of fun. I mean, it's fun, funny, you know, but not any, like dates and stuff like that.
Oh, so you did this so you could stay out late and not have to get up on Sunday morning and go to
Basically.
church. Oh, I see.
But no, I don't know. Maybe it's just the people that I'm around.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
Why do you think your friend hasn't come to church with you? Just because she's like, It's kind of like that fear of the unknown. Like you don't really. I don't know.
I told one of my friends, Eric, I was like, I went to church with him, and I've gone to church with him just like a lot of different times. It's like basically, he goes to a missionary Baptist church, and so I said, basically, we do the same thing that you do in your service. You do the same thing in a Catholic church. During Mass, we do the same thing. and I think it's like the whole. You might be in mass hour and a half tops. And it's like, what? You know, you can't possibly be saying anything, you know. But for me, that works. It's good for me to hear a homily in 15 minutes, get the main points, you know, instead of taking it through comparisons, you know, and have me ending up where I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. That works for me. But it's basically, Mass is basically the same format as any other church service. You know, we've got, we sing songs, you know, we do scriptures, except we call them first reading and second reading. we do all of that. You know, we pray for people, except we call them petitions.
And I think that may be where people get turned off. All the names and all the different, you know.
But if you have, what's the time, the worship time before?
What's the testimony, like devotion?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has names.
Right.
Those can last a long time.
Right.
What, devotion?
Trinity, yes.
Yeah.
It's like we all have names and we all have, you know, different things and different terminology that we use, but it's all the same.
What about music? I mean, how much of the service is devoted to music?
Maybe about a third, probably. And it really depends. Like, even in the churches with Muncie, I would think that right now St. Francis is a little bit more. I like to think of them sometimes as wannabe Baptists.
Well, just how does that differ from, say, St. Mary's and St. Francis? How do they differ?
Like St. Francis is more. St. Mary's is a more like traditional. You got your organ, your big wooden pews, very traditional. But St. Francis, especially since it caters to a younger group, more college students, it's a little bit more laid back. They like to sing. They got the drums, the piano, the choir. They move the sanctuary kind of, you know, like around and
the drums and everything. That's not what most people think of when they think of a Catholic service, you know, like
what, drums?
The drums and the I mean that's what.
I mean, you just think of like an organ, but some Catholic churches are like that. So it's just, we basically all worship the same. We just have different words for it. We really do.
What is church to you? Like, what is? You can answer that. I mean, it's just.
I think church is a place where I go to be fed. I don't think that church to me is much more. Faith and my belief in God is so much more than just church. Church is where I go on Sunday. I go and meditate. I learn. It gives me an opportunity to reflect and to grow. But it doesn't start and stop on Sunday. You know, I have to be able to keep going. You know, it's kind of like a continuing education credit or something. You know, you go and you have an opportunity just to learn and to fellowship, to be around people. And then, you know, after that, I think it's my responsibility then to kind of carry that on.
As far as the education, how you said that the Catholic school here goes to 8th grade? Are there any high schools around?
There are no high schools, and actually we don't have a high school in our diocese. So, I'm sorry, not in our in this parish in Delaware County we don't. I think the closest high school is in Indianapolis, the closest Catholic high school.
Do many people make that? I mean, like, do people from Muncie go to the high school?
I actually tried to go to high school,
really?
a Catholic high school in Indianapolis. But it didn't come out. I applied to go to Brebeuf, and I was like this close to going. and then I got accepted after the school year started. So instead of like picking up and moving, I stayed here. But I would have loved to, because my experience just in Catholic schools was just amazing. I wouldn't trade it for the world at all. You know, I graduated.
You would have had a different experience going to a Catholic high school, like
definitely.
As far as what, like what?
Just I think that I graduated in a class of 12 people, and I'm in contact with more than half of those 12 people that I graduated with in 8th grade.
Wow.
You know, we had close relationships. I knew their parents, their families, you know, knew the dogs' names, spent the night over their houses. I mean, I think it was a more intimate relationship. And I don't think that you get an intimate relationship with your teachers, an intimate relationship, you know, there's not a fear of, can we teach religion in school? You know, can we say this in school? Because we were basically just a big family. You know, and to be able to continue that through the day, you know, I was surrounded by family all throughout the day. So it's really good. Those are where some of my strongest relationships are, were actually, you know, from my elementary school and middle school days. But high school, I just think that, you know, just to be able to continue those relationships, continue like the education that I had, where there weren't that many people in the classroom. We all got to talk and discuss, and you know, probably did a lot more activities that I wouldn't have an opportunity to do if I were in public school.
Did the people that you went to elementary and middle school with, did they enter the Muncie public school system too?
A lot of us did.
Which school?
I actually went to Central my first year, and then I went to Yorktown.
Okay.
My last 3 years. So we did graduate, and a lot of us ended up kind of going to high school together, but it wasn't like the whole group of us together. But we still, like I said, we still keep in contact, you know, to this day. So it was great, you know. It really gives you, and I guess that might be true with all high school, smaller schools, that you have a little bit more opportunity to do different things. You know, it's not like in a big high school or a big elementary school where it's only like a certain amount of kids. If we all wanted to do it, they would have made a way for us to do it, you know. But it was good.
What years did you go to Yorktown?
I went to Yorktown. I graduated in 95, so I got there 92, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
So how was that experience, going to Yorktown? Moving from Central to Yorktown.
It was horrible. It was bad. That was like my first real experience with just harsh racism that you would never think existed. Like, you think that stuff only happened to your parents. I had teachers that just said derogatory terms to me. Parents, we had students, and then when you report that information, the school system just basically didn't care.
Because they were probably thinking the same thing.
Right. You know, their solution to the problem, I remember we used to have these little diversity groups, and it was basically like the 6 students of color, and we would go to a room and we would just discuss. But it's, you know.
Now, did you see, like, were any of your classmates at church with you? I mean, did any of them stick up for you, say, like you saw them in Sunday school or something?
I didn't really in high school. You really just kind of stay to yourself. Yeah. Even if, like, I had the friends that I went to St. Mary's with, but still, it was kind of like it's almost like we had an undercover relationship, you know, because you don't really want to. It was kind of like I just turned off socially when I was at school, and then as soon as I left Yorktown's doors, I would flip right back on. You know, because it was just kind of difficult. You don't know, you know, if an adult makes a comment, just a racist comment, it's kind of like, you're not supposed to be. You're right. You know, you can expect it from a teacher, I mean, from a student, but when like an adult is saying that and no one's really sticking up for you, it's, you know, it's just kind of like, I'm just going to go through it day by day, get on auto mode, and but that was just an eye opener for me, because I never would have thought that type of racism happens in days like this, you know, because you see everybody and be like, yeah, we're accepting, and probably Yorktown schools right now would say, yes, we're accepting, and this might be happening, but it's a crock. It is. It really is. We just had bad experiences, you know, and it was bad, but I think,
I mean, like,
definitely preschool.
I mean, like,
I actually went to my mom used to work for it's a Catholic college in Louisville, Spalding University.
Yeah.
And I went to the Catholic preschool, and it was normal. The teachers wore like the habits, and they wore the whole little thing, and they were all, and it was normal to me. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why it's not like I'm not really turned off by Catholicism.
I've got so many friends. I mean, like my whole area, like I said, it's just like
maybe because I was like friends, 4 and 5, and I had. And the nuns, just like when my mom was pregnant with my little sister, the nuns all threw like a baby shower and came to our house. And what was that? Sister Mary. I can't think of her. What?
Sister Mary.
Sister Mary something. But she was my mom's really good friend.
I think every one of my friends' middle name is Mary or Ann. One of the two.
Elizabeth. But I definitely would. And we wore uniforms, and I think that was the best thing. It really was, because I think that's why I like clothes and shoes now, is because we had 3 uniforms and 2 pairs of shoes. And I mean, I think it's good, especially in this day and age where a lot of parents are breaking their necks to buy $150 tennis shoes for 2-year-olds. We couldn't wear anything with logo. They had to be solid white, solid black. You know, we could not even, don't have a swoosh sign, don't have a logo, you know, solid white or solid black.
Heard that from a lot of people, that they enjoyed the uniforms and they missed them, like even in college, like they wish they
I mean, they're great.
You have to figure out what you're going to wear in the morning.
Yeah, you just put on the same thing. And I think it was good because a lot of people kind of individualize the uniform, like you might wear a different cardigan or you might wear different socks. So, you know, and I think that's where you're able to shine, if you're kind of saying, okay, this is what you have to work with, but you make it your own. You know, so we weren't really walking around there looking like clowns. We had, you know, but a lot of, it's just kind of, you know, if you see those teeny bopper movies, if you see, you know, people with uniforms, but, you know, they've got different shirts on, different sweaters, different socks, different shoes, you know. You're able to kind of...
Was there a sense of community at the church? I mean, like, did the Catholic Church put on other functions outside of just Sunday service to try to kind of, you know, bring people together and form a kind of community?
Yes, but I don't think it's necessarily community outreach. I think it's more or less like we do activities, maybe like at a shelter, or this week we're going to go here, or right now at my church we have a sister parish in Haiti, so we do a lot of different activities, kind of like a foreign exchange program. So we do a lot more things like that, and I think it really just kind of depends on the church that you go to, you know. And I think a lot, the churches, the parishes here that have schools, you know, they're able to get different kids to come in, like maybe for different youth events or school events, you know. But I think it's outreach. You know, we do activities in the community, but I don't think they're activities where there's like, we're doing it to recruit.
Yeah.
You
What
know?
about for just like among the people that go to church, like a church, the church as a community itself, you know, like try to form bonding with the congregation.
Yeah. There's tons of classes. We do like family education. We do a lot of just different types of retreats and different type of like support groups and things like that. So there's tons of opportunities. And like I say, between the 3 parishes here in Muncie, you know, you can find different because they all serve a different purpose in the community.
Now, growing up, would your whole family go to some of these? Like, did your dad come to service as well?
No, he doesn't too much care for the Catholic Church.
We're going to that in my family as well. My aunt.
He really, he'll go.
Did he still go to his Baptist church though?
He still went to his Baptist church, so that was kind of odd.
Did you split time at all? I mean, that's what my cousins do basically. Like one Sunday they'll be in my church, next Sunday they'll be at the Catholic church. Or you just...
I usually go to a Catholic church. But he really didn't. You know, it's all what moves you, I guess, and that really doesn't move me.
When you did go to like Baptist church, how was that? How was that experience for you?
It was, it was just kind of like a church service. It's very different, and I don't know, it's kind of weird, like a lot of things I don't have, and I'm sure that's how it is when, like if people want to ask me something about being Catholic, but it's kind of like, why do you have to have 4 offerings? And I just, I don't get it. And, why, what does this person serve? Because there's like a lot of, I don't understand like the whole deaconess, and this, I don't understand that really too well. So there's some things that I'm just, not really clear on, but and there's sometimes where I feel like uncomfortable because, like I said, I think there's a lot of people who just assume that I don't go to church because they don't see me. There's Bethany Farber. Bethany. I graduated with her in 8th grade, actually. I'm doing an interview. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Added emphasis to the fact that you...
Sorry. Okay, what was I talking about? What was I talking about?
I don't remember. Doesn't really matter. I mean, I think you...
I'm sorry.
I don't remember what we were talking about.
I'm sorry.
It's perfectly okay. I mean, these are conversations. I mean, an interview is kind of a...
Interview is kind of strict to put on these, because you just basically go around talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple... Well, Phyllis Bartleson, we spent 5 hours at her house one night, and I think we talked about church for about 30 minutes. I mean, the other 4.5 hours we were just hanging out and talking. I mean, so...
Okay, cool. Alright, I don't know that anymore.
No.
That's why, it's okay if we just kind of get off topic. Because there's a lot of other...
Yeah, there's other groups. A lot of what you talked, would touch on other groups. I'm sure would probably love to talk to you about some, especially not education other than public education, because the group doing education hasn't even touched on that yet.
It's weird because then I turned around and went to historically black college.
Which college?
After I went to Kentucky State.
Kentucky State.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was just really. I just had a bad experience.
How was that? Coming from Brooktown to HBC? That's crazy.
I know, you're like, wow.
You've been through some changes.
I think it was really, it was kind of good for me because, like I said, I really just shut off and had a bad experience at Erika. So I think it was something that I needed at the time,
Because we were talking with someone in an earlier interview, and he was saying that his sons, he had 2 sons, and one of them went to Yorktown, and they ended up moving out of their home so that their son, and moving somewhere else so that their son could go to Muncie Central. And they said that when he went to Yorktown, he wasn't interested in anything. He just went to school, came home, nothing. And then when he went to Central, he automatically got interested in things and started wrestling and became a really good wrestler. I mean, so kind of
if there's no
the reverse
support,
situation of your situation.
But I definitely think that if you don't have the support there, and if you don't feel comfortable, and if I don't want to say, I think threatened would be the wrong word. I didn't always feel safe. I didn't. It just I can't explain it. When you see like a trusted figure, or an adult, or the principal or the assistant principal, just kind of say, well, it doesn't matter, and no one there for me to communicate to say, you know what I mean,
right?
Or, you know what's going on.
Yeah.
And it just, I think everything that I just lost hope, I guess, and that these people are looking out for me, because obviously they were. Yeah. And so I think when I went there might have been like 6 black people there, and that's like the population.
Yeah.
That's like popular, because there are a lot of people who move out of the area just because of the school system, just because your kids, you just have tons and tons of problems, but I'm not, and now that I think about it, I'm not really sure why we didn't move out of the school system. In some, it was good in a way, because I didn't have a lot of distractions. I was able to go to school and learn and things like that, because there wasn't any real socialization there for me. So I really was in school to go to school. That's what I did. So it was good in that sense. If you would look at my transcripts from my freshman year, and then look at the last 3, you'd be like, wow, this can't be the same person. So in that sense, it was good. That's not to say that everyone in Yorktown is just bad. There are a lot of, because I think in that community specifically, a lot of people in the community grew up together. You have your cliques since you were in preschool. Your moms go to whatever club during the day and things like that. So I think it's a very hard system in general for a child to break in and feel accepted.
Yorktown is like the rural school, right? Like the country school. Sounds a lot like Princeton. Sounds a lot like, but there's only one high school in Princeton, so if you didn't like it, you didn't have a choice.
You're stuck.
I mean, it wasn't to that extent, because, like I said, all the black kids had to go there, and there were more than 6, but I didn't have another choice. But there's not one black teacher at the high school in Princeton. There's only 2 black teachers in the whole school system, and I'm talking a middle school, a high school, and 3 elementary schools. There's 2 black teachers. One of them is my stepdad. And the other one is Mary Madison, and she's my cousin.
Right.
I mean, and she teaches elementary school. They both teach elementary school. But
it's and there's no administrator, teacher, and I don't blame them, because if you're getting flack as a student, there's no way, you can't reasonably expect an adult to want to go through that, let alone a child, because I'm sure that as an employee of that school system, you would probably face, a lot more just blatant, and I wouldn't want to.
What were some of the things, like?
I had a teacher tell me I had big lips.
In class or in?
Yes.
In front of everyone.
Just use nigger as like it was just.
I just can't grasp it. Class.
Yeah.
Class.
Yeah. would have like students, and we'd go and report it, and they'd be like, yeah, we said it. Oh, well, all of a sudden it's freedom of speech, and you can just kind of say whatever you want to. It was just a common word. It was, and it was just kind of just like in regular conversation, and there was no. It was just.
Like you say, you don't think that,
right.
1990s,
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't want to say. I hated to go to school. There's just no different. I just did not like going to school, and I think that, like I said, after there had been a couple of incidents at the school, and so they decided that they were going to organize a multicultural group. And basically, we would get a pass and we give it to all the minorities, which was 6. So we all got a pass out the class, and we would go to the counselor's office and we would talk.
But that's not. I mean, but you are already the multicultural.
Yeah.
They need to be the ones to be
Yeah.
multicultural.
Right.
You already know what it. I mean, that seems kind of backwards that they would say, okay, we're gonna take all 6 of you guys and let y'all discuss how we should. But y'all are the ones that need to discussing.
And then the funny thing about it is, the rest of the school would kind of catch on and be like, oh, you guys are having a black people meeting, or that's the minute meeting.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, we get in the meeting, and so then they had this big idea that we were going to have this, I think it was a diversity day. And we said that we were going to have a panel with all the students on there. We just got blasted. You guys think you're special, and
the teachers allowed that just to go on.
And there were a lot. I mean, there were probably, I could name probably 5, not even 5, no more than 5 at least teachers who actually acted as if they really cared. That kind of treated me. They didn't use a derogatory term in front of me. And I don't care what you say in the privacy of your home, but just don't do that.
Yeah.
And
just be hateful like that.
So, did all the 6 black kids kind of just hang out with themselves and just?
No.
Or was it I can't. Cause I was a social queen in high school. And I can't imagine not going to school. Just going to school and just being isolated and just.
It was kind of that was the weird thing about it. I would say hi to people, or I would eat lunch with different groups of people, but I wouldn't do anything within school nights. I did, and it got, I didn't go to prom there, I didn't go to any of the dances.
And no one stood up. That's why I guess I can't, we had rednecks in our school, but as soon as they said something, it was all right, you're the one that's dead, yeah. There's no one that stood up or anything, I just can't imagine.
That's hard. That's really hard. So did you to have those social experiences? Did you go to Central with friends?
I gotta be okay, well, I'm gonna go to Central Stadies, or I'm gonna go to Central's prom. I went to Southside's prom, Central Stadies a couple times, but it got to I didn't want to graduate. I did not want to go to graduation ceremonies. I didn't order a cap and gown. I didn't, because it was just it's kind of I don't want people to, it's if my family came, you would know who my family was.
Yeah.
And what would I be celebrating? I don't want to be around.
That you survived.
Survival walk. But I didn't want to graduate at all, and I did. I went on and did it. I don't have the tassel. I don't have the record book. I don't have a memory book. It's kind of like I would rather just let that part of my life. It happened, but you know, like I'm sure, like a lot of people have like their high school memory books and they flip through. I don't have that.
Yeah.
You know, I've got like pictures of me and my friends outside of school, but you know, can I say, you know, we did this in our prom, and you know.
Mhm. And I guess did you kind of go in full circle? Did like you lean on your faith? I mean, through high school. I mean, did you use faith to get through some of this at all, or?
I think I became, when you, like I said, before that time I never really experienced any kind of discrimination or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But then after you experience it, then you're kind of like, well, I wonder what they say about me, or I wonder if they really like me, or that person's over there looking at me kind of weird. I wonder, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like really started to look and say, well, I wonder, you know, you're right, do you really like me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not supposed to like me, or I wonder what you're saying. But it once that was kind of over with, you know, I think it did give me a sense of comfort, and it actually helped me kind of get away from that fear and that just the hatred. Because at that point, I think I was borderline, I don't like white people, you know, they've done this to me. But I think it really kind of helped me because I was in an environment that was predominantly white, where I was accepted, and nobody said any of that. Nobody, you know, was like grabbing their kids. And, you know, I didn't experience any of that. So I think it really did, and I think my church really did help me in that sense, where I was kind of able to mend those relationships.
Uh-huh.
The white-black thing in my mind.
Was there ever a time you thought, in your, you know, kind of think to yourself, like, hey, forget this, I'm just going to the, you know, the Baptist
That
church?
never really,
No?
That never really happened because, like I said, it really, I guess that kind of worship style just doesn't jive with me. So, and it was actually kind of weird because my senior year in high school, one of the girls that we actually graduated with in 8th grade had died. And I think a lot of people, and we went to high school together, and a lot of people were kind of shocked when she died, that we kind of grew up together and had this really, like a little bit more, a deeper relationship than what they saw with me at school. Because like I said, I really just turned off everything at school, and I think that was kind of like an eye-opener. You know? So that was... But it was just odd. It really was, because you know, or at least you don't think it happens in Muncie, Indiana. Like it has to happen in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah.
You know. But it really, I really don't see. I think there has to be, as far as Yorktown as a community goes, I think they have to be willing to kind of embrace. Like a group of people, you know, and I don't think that, I think it would have to be like a group of 3 teachers that go into the school system instead of 1, because 1 is not going to make it. And it might be different now, you know, like I don't go to any reunions, don't plan to go to any reunions, you know, but I guess you kind of have to turn it into a positive, and you know, that's just part of who I am now, and I'm glad that it didn't really, like I didn't turn into a racist, because there at the beginning I had a strong possibility just to become really just having a lot of hate inside of me, you know, and communicating that to others. So I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But
I found that really interesting. I guess that, I mean, obviously that was justified hate. You know, I mean, like you hate to condone hate, but you know, but I mean, but that the church kind of, you know, like healed that, I guess.
Yeah, kept it from going to that point.
Right.
Because on one hand, you're experiencing this horrible treatment from white people, and on the other hand, you see that now they all white people act like that. So you could kind of balance that out in your mind, you know.
Do you think that gave you a different going to a predominantly white church? Do you think that gave you a different perspective on the white community than had you gone to a predominantly black church?
Like if you would have been in that same situation at Yorktown and went to an all-black Baptist church, do you think things would have turned out differently? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think that I don't know. I think maybe when you like, if my parents, you know, say, you know, like had a conversation with their friend and said, oh, you know, the kids are having this type of problem at school, then I think a lot of conversation would be like, oh, you know, forget that white man and white people are devils and things like that. So I think it does kind of give you ideas, could kind of, you know, just been shouted upon to you. But I don't know if it would have been that much different.
Mm-hmm. Do you notice that? And I got just kind of watching people, you know, like recently, like just kind of seems like, you know, if we all worship together, you know, like white, black, Hispanic, I mean, it might be a little bit different. And I wondered if you know, coming from a congregation, you know, like where you are a minority, if that gives you a different perspective than say like when you went to the, you know, like historic black school, did you have like a different outlook toward the majority community than say some of your classmates? I guess like if I was put in your shoe, if I had gone to a predominantly black church, would I have a different perspective? You know, I mean, even though I am a majority, worshiping with a bunch of people, you know, I wonder if I would have a different perspective, and that's what
I think. Like when I went to historically black school, I think that was the one time probably where I was considered the majority, and I think that's good because you're able to see both the power in a majority and also to see how you would treat other people in the minority.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like white people were given the minority scholarships, you know, at our school.
Were they really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And you see, like if there was a white student who enrolled, you know, then you're able to see how like a lot of people use their position as a majority. You kind of see the flip side of it, you know. But I think it's good in a way to be part of majority at one point in time, because I think to understand all aspects of how everything works, you have to experience that. You know, you do have to know that there is power when you're a majority. You can use that for good and you can use it for bad.
Yeah.
You know, you understand your influence, you know, you understand the behaviors that go along with when you're in a majority. So I think it does. Mm-hmm. It does give you a different perspective. You know, I think you can use a lot, you can learn a lot, but you can also abuse it. Mm-hmm. But it was really interesting because I saw, you know, coming from Yorktown, and then, you know, we might have a white student who enrolled, and you know, you hear like people in your class saying like, what is he doing here? Right. And it was like that was the same thing that people were saying about me 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Were you more apt to like reach out to the white student then?
Yeah. And a lot of people, like at first glance, they're like, well, we don't know what your ethnicity is anyway. Uh-huh. You know, so they probably thought, well, she's not African American, she's Hispanic. I've been Hispanic and Indian and, you know, kind of like everything else. But I think, you know, I think hi, Laura. It really gave me an opportunity to really, after experiencing racism and discrimination, I think you're more apt to kind of take people for who they are, and you're less likely to judge because you've been judged. Mm-hmm. Susan? Once you're on the other side of that, then you got to be careful about what you say because, you know.
That's interesting. Like, just an interesting take on things, because this is really a random thought. So, just...
Take it where you want to take it.
But, like, in the Making a Home group, we wrote our outlines today, and we, like, went over and discussed in the class and stuff. And, like, they were talking about generosity, how, like, the family is so open to, like, bringing in new people and are just, like... Because the girls that are in that group, they said they went and talked to this lady, and she was like automatic, like, you guys are my new daughters, and I love you. And I was thinking that maybe the reason why, because like black people are really accepting, like, I mean, just really accepting, and you just have to. Maybe that's because you know what it feels like to be judged, and you know what it feels like to be the one that's out in the cold and not being accepted and being, you know. So that maybe that's why, because like. Have you noticed when we go, like, because we go to church together, and, like, last week at Union when we went, like, those ladies that told you, you know, come back, you and Carrie, they were like, come back, and nobody said, it was my first.
From the community standpoint, I think there's a lot of pressure that we're not known as Muncie, the city, for anything. We're known for Muncie, Ball State. You know, people don't know, but if you're like, yeah, where Ball State is, okay, you know, I know where that is. I think that a lot of people maybe feel that we might go to the university too much, that we don't utilize, or we either utilize Ball State students, but it's never really like a collaboration. Or we never go and say, okay, well, maybe here's a researcher, you know, from the community, and we'll pair them up with a researcher at Ball State and do the same thing. It's either one, and usually, you know, but like I said, we have an excellent, Ball State is an excellent institution. We need to utilize it, but we need to utilize it in a way that it helps our community, you know. And we just don't have that, you know, we don't have that kind of organization, I think, as a city as a whole. You know, and we've got excellent resources, organizations, different groups in Muncie, but there's no way, like I could say, okay, do you know where I can go and get this, this, and this? There's no one-stop shop, you know, where that information would be available. So there's a lot of different things that are going on in Muncie, but what are they? You know, how do I find them? So, I don't know, and I really just see it it's really evident, like, in the black community, because we, you know, like I said, it's so evident. Whose neighborhood you go into, you can tell. You know, you can tell, like, the businesses, the houses, but and we have to do something about it. And if there's nobody in the older generation to say, okay, we need some help, young people, or, you know, can we at least invite you to the table to hear what you have to say, you know, then we're not going to get anywhere, and all our leaders are going to be dead, and then we're going to be...
Have you ever felt, has anyone even attempted to reach out to you? Like, say...
I think to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But I think I don't think there's really been that kind of dialogue.
I mean, like, as an educated person, you know, you went to college and then you chose to come back to Muncie. That seems like, you know, you'd be a prime candidate for, hey, you know, let's get her involved, you know? Not that uneducated people cannot. Right, I'm just like...
Right, but I think when you say, I want you to get involved, that means that I'm going to have to give up something in order to give you something. Yeah. I don't think that hasn't been done for certain people. You know, I think Phyllis has given me, like, just tons of opportunities, which have opened up a lot of doors. Unfortunately, those have been doors other places than Muncie. And Phyllis can't open up the doors. She can't do it all. One person can't do it all. You know, and who else is going to say, I would like you to do this, or, you know, or what do you think about this, or why don't you come and invite me, or, you know, why don't you come and participate in this and see what you think.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of, I mean, like, this probably will never make, like, this aspect of what I've been thinking about will probably never make it into our book, but I mean, that's one thing where I see the church as a powerful tool, almost as an organization, you know, like, I mean, would that could be would that be an opportunity to open a door? Like, if you knew say, an influential pastor who could say, hey, talk to this person, they know so, like as far as an organizational.
But I have to agree with Jessica. I don't think that churches play such a big role in young people's lives.
Like I'd say from like our generation on down, like I don't know, I can't, it's hard to say this is the time when church stopped being important, but I think I'd have to say like the 80s. I don't know, there's just something about the 80s that's real fuzzy to me. Like I don't know, like you go through the 70s and you say, and people, go to church and stuff. I know that when I was growing up, my mom, she really didn't like when I was little, like we went to church. She didn't force me to go. And then she got more like religious. She got more into the church and stuff. And so then she started forcing us to go. But I always knew. Now my grandmother, on the other hand, she forced us to go. So maybe it's like the people that are like 40, like 45-ish now, those are the people that like caused the breakdown at the church.
Their fault.
And the kids.
And I think religion is a turn off for a lot of, they don't want to be like, you're not going to tell me that I'm going to hell.
Right, and we're so free thinking. I don't know. It's just so.
We are more liberal.
And, kids.
Society as a whole is,
I'm sorry?
Society as a whole has become more liberal.
Yeah. And we've become more tolerant, I think. And it's just like for a minister, to say, come and join me. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we're living in this, but I think that, like, me and you, are kind of living in this world, like, everybody likes religion and everybody goes to church. But the fact is that not everybody likes religion and not everybody goes to church. And we've only talked to those certain people that go to church and, like, enjoy religion. We haven't been pointed in the direction. And that's just because our advisors, the people that we talk to, one of them's a pastor, one of them's Phyllis, and they like going to church. So they're not going to obviously tell us, point us in the direction of people who don't like to go to church. But
I guess my thoughts were on, a lot of this I'm thinking on a larger scale than just our project. Just as a means of getting different communities together. Basically, this whole line of thought started with, there's a thing with BSA, that they organize a sit-in and whatnot. And I thought that was really powerful because they could organize, even if you didn't belong to BSA, you didn't like BSA, it was still a point of organization within the black community at Ball State. Now they want, unity is a big thing. And I'm sitting here listening to it, and they've got a lot of good points. But then the big hurdle to me is you can organize every minority community on campus, but unless you organize a majority community, you're still missing out on a lot of people. And we have no organization.
The W.
We don't. There's no need for it. So we don't look to a sports team. We don't look to a club. There's no organization in the majority community. And thinking on a wider, I've just been applying this to American society in general. I was kind of thought, like churches. White people go to church. Black people go to church. That could be a beginning point. As far as I can't think of too many things that are in communities that have a source of organization, and that's what.
I don't know. I think that.
I guess that's my.
I'm just real. Like society to me is just. I'd just rather go live in Switzerland right now. Seriously, I would.
Yeah.
I'm just because it seems like we're just in that place where everybody thinks everything's great, and leading up to the civil rights movement, black people went through so much, and at one point they were just like, I'm tired. I'm tired, and I'm sure every black person in the 60s didn't go to church, but they all organized to fight. They organized for a common good, for a goal, behind a minister. Now, everybody probably back then was like, nah, minister, I don't care too much for church. But he's got a good thing going, and a lot of black people, as much as people don't probably want to admit this, didn't agree with what Malcolm X and what Martin Luther King were doing. You paint that big glorious picture now because what they did worked, but seriously.
If it didn't work, you're right.
But there were a lot of black people that were like, he's just stirring up trouble, and we don't need I'm not having any part in this, and they're just troublemakers, and things are good enough. Leave well enough alone. We've got our little land, we work our little jobs, we work for the balls, we're living good. Why just leave well enough alone? And then when it turned out okay, it was like, oh, well, all right.
Yeah.
And then we gave him a holiday. And so I think that right now we're just kind of like, we haven't been pushed to the point to where we're tired of it. We're tired of not having our streets plowed. It's a whole new set
I
of
think
problems.
we are. I think we're tired, but it's like we don't know how to organize. We don't.
It's like,
Like you said, the church has been taken away as an organizational tool. Now, what is going to organize now?
I think
That's
I don't know.
I think that's an interesting and a crucial point.
It is. Because it's like, yeah, we're tired of it, but I think now we're tired of it, but it's like, okay, if the street's not plowed, what do I do? We don't know.
Right.
We can call City Works and have them shovel the road. We don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Or do we? That's what I'm saying. We need to be able to have that person who can come in and out of different communities and be able to speak so that you can say, call so-and-so. Or, you know, if there's a vacant car on your, you know, you can call the city and have them ticket that car. You know, but we can't, and then it's like, even if you say that, you're still dealing with the older generation that's just tired.
Right.
That's the only, you know, they're tired. They're old. You know, they don't want to do it. So it's kind of like we're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really see any. It's just like the Martin Luther King Day. If the series of activities is supposed to be for young people, who was under 40? You know?
Yeah.
And you just, like, in the workshop, it's kind of like, okay, and then people stand up, and it's just like, that's not something that I need to hear. You know, you need to really, to me, it seems like you would be preaching to my age group, because we can actually do something. You know, the 40-year-old.
It kind of just seemed like that was the point that was missing. They had the kid workshops.
Well, they had that panel, and then they didn't let the panelists speak.
Oh,
I was-
my goodness. I was like, you are not sitting up
My
here.
age,
Is it? And I think, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
And that's what even happens, like, in community meetings. It's like somebody just gets up there and talks.
That's like a perfect example of him not giving up leadership right there, I guess.
It is. Because you want to sit up there and you want to talk about your experience. Can you be, you know, could somebody my age, what was my purpose there?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like they catered to the young kids, and they had the panel for the adults.
Right.
There was nothing for like out of high school, but not quite 40. I mean.
That's what, I mean,
And that's a big gap.
Right.
we've been, like, in this book, you know, like, you're the first person that we've talked to that's, you know, in our generation or for our age, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that adds a wholly different perspective to things, and that's important, you know? Like we said, we have the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, part of the 70s covered, all of a sudden 80, 90, like 70, late 70s, 80s, whoops, that's gone, and then back to present day 90s when they had kids, you know what I mean? So it's like...
But it's representative of
Yeah.
of the community that we live in. There's nobody here,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's my age. I don't even have really. There's no one here that's my age that, like, similar education, background, have a job, that type of thing in Muncie, like, that I can consider like a peer.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there's not. You know, I go to meetings every day for work, and I sit in there with 40-year-old people.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like that. There's me, and that's sad. You know, it's kind of like the whole high school thing, but in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, if I don't have a peer or somebody that's my age that does like a similar thing, who's gonna back me up if I was even to make a stand? It'd be like, okay, I'm gonna take all the bullets myself, you know. But I think it's a hard transition now, because I even feel, you know, like the same way in grad school. You know, it's kind of like you're still in that middle. You know, I'm not a child anymore, but then I'm not really grown. You know, I'm like semi-grown.
I hear that.
The young and the restless.
Right. So, I don't know. Like I said, I think we've got a lot of excellent things in Muncie, but We gotta get some new leadership in there. If not, we're gonna be done. You know, we're gonna be done. And there's been a lot of good, even like some of my friends that we graduated in the same year and stuff like that, just doing a lot of talented people, like you said, who just could be a true asset to this community. But there's no opportunities. Nobody's willing to say, okay, it's time for me to be retired, you know, and really be retired, and you just call me if you need help, type thing.
Consultant. You know?
Yeah, be a consultant. You know, but you know, nobody wants to do that. And I think, as far in all due respect to the older generation, I just think that, you know, it's kind of like there's a fine line, and like you said, consulting someone and then feeling that you have to do it all yourself, and feeling that it's not going to go through. But it's you know, it's just weird. There aren't very many people here my age at all.
So I guess, is there even a pool to find leadership? I mean, like you said, if you're the only one here standing up, who's going to support you?
But that's not to say that you can't go like to Ball State and you can't find. There's people in high school who can still be assets, and not even in school. There might be a leader, you know, somewhere who hasn't been given a chance to be a leader. You know. It doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be an educated person. It could, you know, it could be somebody who's just a person, a resident of Wiley, who's just fed up and finally is the one to call and say, this is what's going on and I'm tired of it.
Well, I guess we hit an interesting point yesterday. We were talking about along the same lines. And there's an older gentleman that we were talking to, and he said that when I asked him, like, do you think it's appropriate for pastors to be in a leadership role? And he said that he thinks it's almost part of their responsibility, because, like, say you stood up, you know, and said something, you have a job to worry about, you know, and like there's, you know, someone could, you know, or you know, anyone working in a factory, whereas the pastor is responsible to the community, so therefore, of course, they're going to continue to support him. I mean, what do you think about like that type of an idea?
I think you do, when you are a pastor, I kind of have an automatic following, you know, or you have a quiet following. So if they disagree with you, they're not going to get up in church and say that they disagree with you. You know, so I do think that there's that automatic backing there, you know, and I do think that a lot of pastors see that as their role, to be a leader, you know, but I don't necessarily see them, like, I think they can just be a leader up to a certain point, and I think a lot of leaders are not. You know, I think when you talk about like religious beliefs, that automatically, you know, depending on your interpretation of the Bible or whatever book that you may use as, you know, as your word, then you automatically isolate yourself from groups of people. You know, with any other churches, you know, yeah, they say they want to reach out, but they wouldn't reach out to, let's say, like a gay and lesbian group. You know, would somebody be able to reach out to maybe the kids who are considered at risk, or, you know, those people who are in jail? You know, I mean, there's so many different populations just because of religion that we automatically just isolate ourselves off from. And that's what prevents us from being, or to me, a pastor being a true leader. You know, because you can't say, you know, this action is wrong, but then, you know, kind of all of a sudden turn off and, you know, be accepting. You know, because I think as long as you keep your distance, then you can say, yeah, that's wrong. You know, but once you have exposure to different lifestyles, then you become a little bit more compassionate, and you become a little bit more empathetic, and you become to see that person as what they are and not necessarily the group that they belong to. You know, so then once you have that relationship, then what do you do with your ministry?
And that's an excellent point, because we've talked to a couple of them, and they said, like, first and foremost, I'm a pastor and then a leader.
Right.
And like you said, I mean, sure, you could be a good leader, but to be a true leader, you have to go, I mean, you'd have to give one up or the other. I mean,
you gotta reach outside of your comfort zone, and we all have comfort zones, and it's just like kind of like what you said, your title, you know, causes, and who from the gang, from this gang is gonna want to talk to Reverend so and so, it's not gonna happen, and when, like, that might cause a pastor to kind of say, well, I can't, is that fair for me to say while I'm in the pulpit, to say one thing and maybe have to change my attitudes and beliefs a little bit, so it's kind of safer to stay inside the church, because if you start outreaching too much, you could possibly get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
And like safe, like sex, adolescent sex. There's not too many pastors that will say, here's a type of birth control, or it's kind of like we know that they're having sex, but we're going to give them this promise. We're on the second and third promise now. But it's like, if you become accepting to that person, then you somehow have to embrace their actions also. But then that comes back to what you're teaching at church. So you can't really be, as a pastor, you can't be all things to all people.
Yeah.
Because you can't address that teen that's sitting 3 rows from the pulpit, that's having sex or that has a baby. You can't really appropriately address that. And I think to be a leader, you got to be compassionate, and you have to be able to come in and out and be able to speak to different groups and be able to be, accepting and embrace and ready to take on new things. You can't, a lot of time, and that's even like business titles and things like that, because of the titles that we hold or the organizations that we work with, it kind of prevents us from doing, from really reaching and speaking to those people that we need to. So I think that would kind of shake things up a little bit. I think it would really, it's a neat dynamic. I mean, I think the church is a great asset, and it plays a dynamic role within the community. Yeah. But you can only go so far.
I mean, the whole discussion is adding new pieces to the puzzle. That, it really is.
So, I mean, it's a good place to go, and worship, but then at the same time, it can't be your be all and end all.
You're definitely adding, like, extra slots to our outline of our chapter. It's great.
So, but I don't know. It's wild. It's really interesting. And you see that it's like I said, we've got all these black churches. You would seem like they would somehow be able to condense and say, okay, your mission is mine. Your mission is my mission. But it seems like the reason why we have so many different churches, because there's so many different beliefs, and okay, this is what you can do, and I don't like what you're doing, so I'm just going to set up another church. That's the only reason why I can process in my mind that we have so many different churches.
That's something that we are going to address, because in like the early, what would you say, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there were only like 12 black churches in Muncie. Now there's upwards to 50. And that is something that is, in 20, what? Well, how many years is that?
I mean,
30, 35 years? I mean,
yeah, that's for us, it wasn't like, all of a sudden split. It was like, it was gradual, and all of a sudden
it's gradual, and when they wake up and you're like, Middletown has 3 pages of pastors, and,
Yeah.
why, and for a
And
community that I mean, I'm not saying that the community's small, but I mean for such a small community, why do you need 50 churches when, you know, one church down the street from another church, each church got 10 members?
Yeah.
If you and your brother hooked up, you know,
You might have a large congregation.
Yeah.
You would need 16 folks.
but that means that somebody would have to take a back seat to another person. Everybody has their own agenda.
And the ironic thing about it is a lot of people who are establishing new churches actually grew up with a different home church in Muncie. But they go and set up another
own
church. You know? And I don't know. I mean, and they may do that for whatever reason. You know, I don't know why. But you can't lead like that if every time you get fed up with something, you just go and say, well, forget it, I'm having my own. You know?
Right. I mean, and that's a good point. I mean, how do you expect to bring cohesion to something that's dividing every, you know, you can't say the pulpit's where the leader's going to come from because you got 50 pulpits.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, taking it back to, you know, Catholicism too. I mean, is that, like, how do you perceive that split? I mean, because, like, you know, my church, there is, you know, if someone gets mad, there's a threat that they're going to split and start a new church. But, you know, the Catholic Church, you know, last time there was a split was about, you know, I mean, like, it's, like,
there's a lot of, I think, solidarity in that sense. If you want to start a new church, then you know that you've got the diocese behind you, which is a lot of parishes make up a diocese. And so we're in the Diocese of Lafayette. So if there was a need for a church, then we could probably call up the bishop and say, okay, this is what, you know, we really have a big demand for that. But I mean,
just to get mad and say,
right, I mean, the
you know,
priest is not going to get
Father.
up in the audience and be like, you know, Father John's leaving today because he's fed up, you know, so he's just going to make his own church. You know, it doesn't work like that. And I guess that kind of goes back to each church, each Catholic church that's in our community now kind of serves a different purpose. So if you're not getting what you need there, then you can go there. Like, I grew up at St. Mary's. Well, that's not really getting me where I need because there's a younger generation at St. Francis. You know, so that's where I can go now and see people like me and enjoy worship and, you know, enjoy other groups like that. You know, and then at St. Lawrence, it's more like a younger, married working couple, like, you know, like your 30s, you know, and so you can kind of change and move around like that. You know, they each serve their own purpose, and I think each parish is comfortable in that. Not saying, well, we don't need the whole Catholic population in Muncie to come to our church, and we're not fighting for members, and we're not trying to steal the other church's thunder. We know that we can work together and it'll all be for the common good.
Is there a lot of movement then? I mean, like, as you grow up, you know, like, if you then, you know, get married and stuff, would you then switch possibly church? I mean, is there a lot of that? Like, where, like, someone gets married and becomes like a young couple, would you switch to Lawrence, and then maybe as you get older, then go to St. Mary's?
I don't know, because there still are young couples. I guess it just kind of depends on where you are and what you need as far as the parish goes as a whole, you know. But there are a lot of people that just kind of, you know, move around, and then there are some people who just stay at a certain parish because that's the parish that they grew up in, you know. So I don't know. I don't know, because, you know, still, even if I went to St. Francis and was married, you would still be able to do the young married couple, you know, like the little side activities through whoever.
Yeah.
But, you know, but typically, I mean, I can definitely say that within the parishes, there's a certain target audience. And even as I was saying, like the different mass times, Saturday masses, a lot of college students. Sunday evening masses, tons of college students. 9 o'clock mass would be younger single people. 11 o'clock mass is family.
how does that affect the church dynamics? I mean, we noticed this. We went to Union last week. And we were kind of thinking about this. I mean, like, how does that affect the dynamics of the church that you have a group that's there permanently as Muncie residents, but then you got another, section that's pretty much turning over every 4 years, and then as you come and go for college.
I think it's really worked well because, like I said, that at St. Francis, that's what our target audience is. So it's kind of like you utilize and you give those opportunities to those young people while they're there. You make them feel like they're at home. This is your home. This is your home church. If you need anything, like we do, kind of like a pairing where the student has like a monthly home, so if you want to go and have dinner, things like that, so I think it's more, we understand that you're here temporarily. We can accept that. We're going to put you to work and give you opportunities while you're here, and if you decide to stay, that's good. But if you decide to go, that's fine also, because we understand our role, But there's a lot of people
that's interesting. Just that way of thinking about it. Because I don't know, when I went to Union, I kind of got it's hard to explain. Union is the college church. If you're black and you go to Ball State, then if you go to church, then you go to Union. And it seems like it was more of a place to kind of be seen. Like if
we both had a different feel than the other churches we visited, which was interesting. We kind of talked about it on the way on the car ride home. Like when I go to my Indian friend's house, I mean, it's like they go out of their way to be. I think it's more of a minority experience, if that's
maybe that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, I only know because I'm black, but
I mean, just like from my perspective, if I went to like my white friends, graduation party, and like the family I never met, there's like, oh, there's some guy. But when I went to my black friends, my Indian friends or something, it's like their family, like these old people going out of their way to like talk to me and be nice, and I'm just kind of like, hey, hug,
Because they know what it feels like to be like, what are you doing here? Why are you, having your nose turned up?
Right. But I also think we say that, but then we're thinking like, okay, why are you really here? In the back of, we might kind of be nice, but I also think there's a little bit of, well, why are you here? I want you to come back because I want to know why you're really here.
I've actually seen it when I go to churches. Like when I walk into the greeters, like I notice it just like a little bit like an eye, like I catch them off surprised, but then they're like super nice. But it's been kind of funny, like just to see reactions, like.
Man, what are you doing?
It's fun.
That's weird. That's kind of funny.
Were there any feelings of like, I say solidarity, but for lack of a better word, like, were there anyone else Catholic at your high school, or like, I mean, was there any sense of solidarity? I mean, if someone knew that you were Catholic, would they maybe be nicer or something? I've always wondered that, like. Like Protestants, we don't necessarily have the same church. So like, just because you're Protestant, you might be Baptist, not Methodist. So, I mean, that doesn't mean. But I mean, like, as far as one church.
I don't know. I wouldn't. I think there was like I said, it was kind of like a secret relationship. We had a bond, but what I didn't expect my friends to kind of just be my friend, because I knew they would lose all their friends, or you don't want, I guess I didn't want to I don't want to say take them down with me, but if I want to be isolated, then I think I need to be isolated by myself and not necessarily you fit in. You know what I'm saying? I'm the one that obviously is
so
not
you would never really pursue relationships with them. But if they, like at school, you never pursue at school relationships with them. They never, on the other hand, tried to pursue at school relationships with you, because is that...
I mean, I think it became more of like a casual, hey, how you doing, and what's going on in your life type thing. But I knew in the back of my mind, and I'm sure they know in the back of their mind, if anything were to ever happen, you can always call me up, But... it's kind of hard, especially when you're that age. You don't really understand the whole thing of, well, I know that this friend is saying this, but this friend over here is not saying that. And you really, when you're in high school, you don't really, it's all about your friends, and it's all about your social group. So, yeah, I am going to go where there's 15 people instead of one.
Yeah.
So, there wasn't any kind of like real bonding. You know, like we're all Catholics, we're gonna hang together, and we're, you know. But I do think that there was an understanding. I guess that's the best way to.
Did they receive any? I mean, like, was there any flack thrown their way for being Catholic? Was there any antagonism still?
I think in the white community it's accepted. I really do. I mean, it's just like saying you're Baptist in the black community or you're Methodist in the black community.
Well, that's how it was in my town, but I know there are some towns where the Protestant-Catholic split's still prevalent.
Yeah, but I don't think it was really an issue, you know, if a white person would say, oh, I'm Catholic, you know, it's like going on with your whole conversation. But if you ask me, you're like, stop. Back up.
So I guess that is a major difference between the white and black community as far as...
Definitely. And especially here. I mean, like I say, it's not a big thing like in the larger cities, but here...
When you went to college, were you practicing Catholic in college? Did you go to, how was that? Did you go to Mass?
That was kind of weird because I went probably like a couple of times my freshman year, like the first semester I was going, and I happened to have a professor at the time whose son went to the Catholic church, the only Catholic church that was there actually, and she had made a comment that her son received like a KKK, some kind of like hate mail or something, or it was, and I was like, you know, that's no way. Well, she brings it to class with her, and there's like stamped KKK on the back of it. So I'm like, oh my goodness. So at that time, I actually stopped going to the Catholic church and then went to, like, they had any denominational like service on campus. So I went to those, and then I probably like a year later, I had a really good relationship with the vice president of academic affairs, and I just kind of happened to be in there, you know, chatting with her, and she was saying she had to go to Mass. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't know that you were Catholic. And she was saying, because usually at a Catholic church you got the Saturday, you know, when you go to, they might have 3 or 2 different times on Sunday, and a lot of people just kind of stick with their own time, you know. So like if you usually go to 9 o'clock on Sunday, you're gonna see me at 9 o'clock and you'll never see me on Saturday. And she went on Saturdays, and I was like, you know, I never really realized that you were Catholic, and this situation happened, and like after that I just kind of stopped going because I was scared, you know, because it's like you're the only one. It's like a whole different community, you know. I wasn't in my hometown, so there wasn't anybody that I really knew there, you know. So we kind of worked through that, and I ended up going, ended up like continuing to go to the church, you know, when I left. But and usually I don't really have that problem because, like, if I travel, or my parents live in Ohio, so, you know, like I'll go to, you know, find like a Catholic church to go there, and it really seems like, you know, like you said, when you come in, it's everybody's like, good morning, how are you doing? Yeah. You know, they're not asking you 50 different questions like, are you really Catholic? You don't need to be up here in your communion. You know, what's going on? But, you know, I think it's a real, you know, and you can kind of like travel and move around, and there are, you know, like different types of Catholic churches. Like, they're not all, you know, the same.
So it was just like that one time, like that one service where there were people that were hateful. Like, there's only one Catholic church, and then the guy that went to the church, he got hate mail.
It was actually and actually they weren't members of the church. Her son actually just went to school there. He just wanted to be in a private school. The mother did, and the mother was the professor, and she said that, you know, my son brought this home from school, and it had KKK on the back of it. So, but I guess it was,
okay.
Yeah.
So he went to the Catholic school.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's only the only bad experience, I guess, that I've had.
I mean, for you to say that so lightly,
Yeah.
those are the the only bad experience.
I want to say the KKK, what? They don't like Catholics and they don't like blacks. I mean, that's like, you know.
Yeah. So, but
yeah, why would they even? Why would the KKK be distributing something at a Catholic school when the KKK doesn't like Catholics?
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know. Like, I think it wasn't even really. It was something that they like. I think it was a prank, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she just kind of blew it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, but I'm just thinking, like, that's a group of people. They don't like anybody but themselves.
Pretty much.
So.
Right.
But that was,
So, this is really erratic. I'm not even on the religion topic today. I don't know. But I was going to ask, so you grew up here, and then you went to Kentucky to school, and then you came back here, and you're living and you work here? And
living, going to grad school here. So, I actually came back because the job market in Kentucky just sucks, basically. I had a degree, and I'm like, okay, trying to get a job, and there's nothing there at all in the whole state of Kentucky.
so what do you do?
I actually work for a nonprofit called Future Choices. I came back up here. My grandmother at the time was kind of ill, so I ended up moving up here. The week that I moved here, my dad ended up transferring to Ohio, so I was kind of homeless. And Dayton? And Inglewood, actually, is where they live.
That's real close. I'm from Piqua, right to the interstate.
Oh, yeah, you're real close.
Yeah, we're in the same league and everything.
So, and that's been just like a different experience because the neighborhood that they live in, like, they moved from Yorktown, all white, and then you go to Ohio, and it's like the Jewish population there is just humongous.
Dayton's 47% black, I think.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's 48.
Right. You know, you got African Americans. It's like here, you can tell where. If you ask where's the black person live, they usually live in Whiteley, across town. But it's like they're everywhere, like you said, and it's so much more of a diverse culture. You know, just like learning about, for example, the people across the street are practicing. Orthodox Jews. And they celebrate Hanukkah, you know, and it's kind of like we go over there and do the whole Hanukkah thing, and it's just...
I'd say as an outsider, I noticed that when I came to Muncie, and even Indy for that matter, I think that the Dayton-Cincinnati African-American community is a lot more represented on TV and politics, and it's not necessarily, I'm not saying they're more empowered, because Lord knows Cincinnati has some very bad problems, but it's just number-wise that they, I mean... I think they're more of a presence in both towns.
And here, I think in Indiana, we've got, and I don't know if this is just like black people in general, we're not as apt to let young people do things. It's kind of like if you look at Muncie and if you look at Indianapolis, it's the same black people doing the same black things. You know? Yeah.
Right.
Right. I mean, it is. There are only like a certain...
Do you think it's because the older generation won't let the young ones come in and say, okay, it's time to retire, Dad, Grandpa, let me take over? Or do you think those young people aren't there anymore?
I think the young people, I think it's a little bit of both. You know, I think it's hard to say, as a person who's like real big in the community, no, why don't you give so and so a chance? You know, because we all, humans in general, we like the limelight. We want attention to be on us. And you can't expect young people to stay in a place where there's no opportunities. You just can't. You know, and I don't think...
I mean, are they moving to the cities where there's more...
Right, where you can have an opportunity, and there are different ways, or I can get involved in this. I think there's a good opportunity here in Muncie to do certain things, but I think the limit is very close to where a lot of people enter. You know, and you can't really move it, and you can't, you know, if there's something that you want to do. But I think there's a little bit of, I think the older generation is a little scared. You know, they look like my age group, and you're like, oh, all you guys are drug dealers. Nobody's serious. You guys want to just take a job for a year and then you want to quit. I think there's a lot of apprehension of can we be trusted. But I think in Muncie specifically, we have to begin to make that transition because our leaders aren't young at all. And if we continue at the rate we're going, when those leaders pass away, we're going to be in bad shape because we're not going to have anyone there. There's no kind of real mentoring and saying, okay, this is what you do, or I want to help you kind of do that. I don't really see too much of that. You're probably right. There aren't a lot of young African American people here because the opportunities just aren't here.
I know a guy that graduated from Ball State last year. He's from Gary, but anyway, now he's running for like city clerk or some city council in Gary. I mean, that's potential. I mean, he wasn't from here originally, but he came here and got his education, lived for 5-6 years, But he's pursuing his political. He's a leader, but he left Muncie and to do it. So I don't know. There's potential here, but I don't think that Muncie's really grooming it right.
We're not.
Have, all these people that come to your university that are utilizing, your city for 5 and 6 years, and then they're leaving.
Because we don't see the university as part of we see the university as a university. It might as well be a city, it might as well be its own city in a bubble.
It's the university. I mean, everyone, jokes about Muncie, like students, oh, Muncie, you're going to,
Yeah. I think and I'm sure that happens in Bloomington, like, it's IU. But I think that, we have to take advantage that we do have a university here and we've got excellent opportunities, excellent students, but we have to make the opportunities available for them. And part of that is we got to kind of move forward as a community. If you go to school here for 6 years and you don't see anything here that you like, then you're not going to be encouraged to stay. If nobody from the community, we're not even talking about professors because that's their job, but has anybody in the community, ever said, hey, how you doing? How's Ball State going?
Yeah.
This is what's going on in the community.
They took this project for a lot of people in our class, to get off campus. And like, hey, Muncie's not such a, people now. It is a community. I mean, I think like you go to school for 4 years, never talking to anyone from community, and you're just with people your own age and professors. I mean, that's such a fake world. And it takes just knowing a couple people. I mean, a couple people not your age, a couple people that are different from you, and all of a sudden, hey, this is a place just like my hometown.
Like, yeah. But we've got to, we're not doing a good job. And a lot of the problems that we have, we just continue to have the same problem. I don't know. Muncie it's changed a lot, since I've been alive. There's more than you see development all going that way. It's going west. There's nothing on this side of town. If you look at the marsh up here, and then you go to the marsh on Wheeling and the Galliard, it's 2 different marshes. It's 2 different marshes. You can go in there and buy spoiled milk right now. Right now. Old meat, old everything. And you go not even 3 miles down the road to the same company, same grocery store. There's a big pothole up there. It's just like if you look just development, if you look at the houses.
Even snow removal. We were around yesterday. I live on Talley and Adams. Adams is a dinky little street. They plowed my street. It's all college students. We went over to talk to, what was it? Yeah, Central Avenue. I mean, these are permanent residents who pay taxes to Muncie, not like me. I mean, still does deep,
Couldn't even park on the street.
Couldn't see the curb.
Find the curb to park on the street. And it looked like a pretty, even like some of the well-traveled, because that road Central doesn't look like a main road.
There's enough houses. There's more houses in my than Adams.
Yeah,
but it was like, even driving all back in Whiteley, like behind Schaefer and back, None of those.
There's no sidewalks. There's junk cars everywhere. You know, there has been absolutely, those will be the roads with all the potholes.
I noticed they plowed the streets with churches on them. Did you notice that? Like,
what?
that they did plow the streets with churches on them, because I assumed that they'd get, you know, from the CCCC, they're plowed. But other than that, I don't think any of the other ones were.
I think maybe Highland was plowed.
And then the Macedonia, because it has Union in Antioch.
Macedonia. Well, that's a pretty, like, still, that's a pretty...
Yeah.
Centennial was probably...
The one by Schaefer was, no, maybe it was or not.
That side street by Schaefer is never plowed, because
But there's obvious differences. You know, it does not take a genius. You know,
Neely, I don't think that Neely is a main road. I mean, I wouldn't call Neely a main road, and that is one of the first ones they do. Neely's not main to me. I mean,
It has a
but we
stoplight.
have to do something. Yeah, but we have to do something about it. And I think, you know, like the older you just get tired of having the same argument. You know, the same, you need to do this, you need to do this.
Where do you think the leadership should come from? I mean, we've talked to pastors who say that they think they should come from there. I mean, do you think it should come from a church leadership or from an outside source? Or
I think church leadership is good, but I think when there's a lot of people, you have to be sensitive about like faith and religion these days. And a lot of people are just automatically turned off by church. You know, that's like the core of our community as far as the African American community. But if we want to be able to work, you know, we can't just work within the African American community, because that's not realistic. You know, we need to be able to go and talk to the mayor and be friends with him and be friends with the police officer. So I think it can get us to a certain point. It's not going to get us where we need to be. You know, because I think that a lot of people, when you say faith, a lot of people have misconceptions about pastors, you know, like thieves, or you know, a lot of people are just kind of turned off by that. So I think it can get us to a certain extent. I don't think it'll get us where we need to be. You know.
so you see more like leaders like Hurley who don't necessarily have a church affiliate. I mean, obviously he goes to church, but not like, he's not coming from Schaefer's perspective. I mean, you see that as more of what is needed, like a modern day Hurley, I guess.
I mean, I think we do. We need someone who's got ties to both, that can kind of bridge the gap.
Yeah.
You know, we need someone that can go and talk and be on, you know, on Whiteley community level, be able to talk to the kids, or be able to talk to the people on the street corner. At the same time, be able to communicate a sensible message, you know, that can be understood to business people and understand, and a person who understands like economic development and business. I think we've got a lot of small businesses, you know, but we need to kind of like grow on those and make sure, are you running these, you know, is this like a legit business? And you can't say, you know, you have opening hours and closing hours, or are you just open when you want to be open? You know, I think, but it has to be someone who's really, that can adapt and be a chameleon, I guess, you know, that can just kind of go in and out.
It's interesting that you say that, because traditionally in the black community, I'm talking like 40s, 50s, 60s, into the civil rights era, black people looked to the people in the pulpits, you know, for that leadership, because they were the people who were educated and the ones that, you know, had the voice to stand up Sunday mornings and preach to the people. Their message could be heard. And see, because like all the people we talked to were like old. I mean, they're not like old, but like Phyllis, older. You know, they can remember those civil rights times, and they're looking for those people. They're looking for the preachers and the people that are in the church and that are educated to come and be on the defense. When young people like, you know, you and me were kind of like, we didn't grow up in that same kind of era.
Right.
We haven't been, you know, we don't have a Martin Luther King. You know, we don't have those kind of vocal like clergy men that are like out in the forefront, you know. So we want people that are, you know, but not necessarily religion, because there's kind of like a shift in religion, I think, you know, because modern parents aren't forcing their kids to go to church, and there's not the same emphasis on like religion as there used to be. So we're like, we need somebody that's, you know, like you said, well educated, that can go talk to the people on the street corner, and that can go to the mayor's office and communicate sensibly. And that is where we're lacking. We have two different generations that see it two totally different ways, and so the kids are like, well, fine, we're not going to do it, you know, and the clergymen are like, well, we don't want to be tied. We don't want to be, you know, their first priority is their sermons, or, you know, their church and being a pastor of a church. You know, and we've heard that from some, you know, pastors, that their take on things are kind of changing, because their sole priority is to feed their congregation. They don't, being a politician is side work. You know, if someone in their congregation comes to them with a problem, yes, they're going to try to help them, because those are the people that take care of him, you know. And as a younger generation, we don't look at it that way. We don't see, you know, I don't know. It's kind of like we're at an impasse. Do we step up, you know, and take the leadership roles and say, you know, we want to do this? And the old people are like, well, no, we need to have somebody that's prominent.
I don't think there's a trust. There's no trust factor. There's not even, okay, you know, I see that you do work in the community. I will trust you, you know, work on this. Or even if there was some type of mentoring, you know, if I could see some older person in our community walking around with a younger person and constantly just saying, okay, let me expose you to what's going on, or this is how this works, or this, if you go to the city camp, there's none of that, you know. And I see a lot of, and I think from what I've seen, I think it works a lot better in white families, because it's more like, I'm going to teach my son, if I'm in a business, I'm going to teach him this business, you know. And if he doesn't actually want to go in the business, that's fine, but at least he has knowledge of what's going on and what I do. And I think there's a little bit more trust in, I'm going to let a younger person do this, or I'm going to hire the guy right out of college, or my friend knows such and such, you know, that my friend's son has gotten out of college, so I'm going to give him a chance. I think it's really a trust factor. I think a lot, and like you said, we don't have, in our generation, we don't have predominant, like, religious, you know.
Like, we don't have any leaders.
Right, we don't. And like, the leader, maybe, like, the person I see on TV is like Russell Simmons.
And
he's like a business mogul. He's a clothing designer, record label owner. I mean, but that's a person that I might see him on MTV, and he's having a press conference about some kind of thing, or something like that. But I don't think it. And like you said, I guess what I consider leadership is not what the older generation considers leadership.
I think that's actually a problem that's kind of happening in all communities. I mean, like, even like in the, you know, majority community, like talking to my dad's generation, even they're like, I guess there's a real class split. I mean, like when I hear a lot of talking to Phyllis, I mean, there's a lot of similarities to like neighborhoods I grew up in, and what the same complaints that she has. I mean, obviously minus the racial stereotyping, but as far as class difference, I mean, we all come from working class. Like, I'm the first one to go to college since my great uncle. I mean, and you know, it's like no one feels like they're represented by politicians anymore. I mean, especially in the past 4 or 5 years, there's been a big break, which I think.
But I mean, I won't even go, not even politicians, but are considered leaders.
Yeah.
They don't know what I'm going through, you know, and probably don't care, because they're in their own little world. And you really serve more of who like your friends are, and who you speak to on a regular basis. Like you said, I don't have an opportunity to talk to, like, you know, 60-year-olds.
You know, people speak of like the black community. I mean, is it still a community then? You know, if there is no leadership, so like, all right, there is no, like, the only time I ever said white community in my life is when we're talking, like, in this class is the first time I ever said that. 'Cause I mean, like, I don't think there is necessarily, because as a majority, you don't have a community because you're not, you're the majority. And I mean, is there still such a thing as a black community if there's no leadership? Or is it starting
I think there is, but it's just not organized.
Yeah.
I think you can have a community that's together and everybody's on the same page. I think there are certain like underlining rules and like values, and these are your boundaries. I think that there are those, but it's unorganized. It's not like just because it's not groomed at all.
Yeah.
We have a lot of potential.
Like those Hurleys are not out grabbing those kids that are pursuing politics and saying,
Or not even politics. If you
any-
see someone that has this taking the effort and
like
making the
Jared.
effort.
Jared is an excellent leader. I mean, yes, he has his flaws and stuff, but he knows how to get things done. And it's a shame to me that he came here for 5 years, and nobody ever said, you're speaking up and you're doing all these things. Because one of the guys that's working on this project with us, he was like an instrumental, like the key player in getting MLK Day off for Ball State. He's the one that started the petition and everything. I mean, those are the kind of people. Like I don't think he has an interest in politics, but he is a natural leader. I mean, and people listen to him. He's smart. He's articulate sometimes. And I strike that comment for the record, Jared. Anyway, but
It's true.
nobody's saying, Jared, I don't know. It was just kind of an odd feeling. Like when I went to Schaefer, it was like those people were genuine. You can't say that so and so's not genuine because they're only 20 and they're in college, but
their faces kind of lit. I mean, it wasn't like polite happiness. I mean, they were really happy that we were there. Didn't you feel that way? I mean, like
the people, like, I don't know. It was just like such an open, like warm reception at Schaefer. Like the Pastor Winburn came out of the pulpit toward the end, like at the end of church, shaking everybody's hands. He had a personal relationship with everybody in the church, and he talked to us for like 20 minutes after church. I mean, he went as far as to tell me, I was like, I really want you to come back to church here. He was like, and do you miss mealtime, by coming to church? Because if we need to, we'll arrange a ride and we'll arrange food for you so that you can come to church
me I had
here.
a bright smile.
And I was like, and those are the kind of things, those are like genuine things. Now I know that like Union, they have a kind of like a program where the women of the church, they cook every Sunday after church for any college student that goes to church there. If you go to church there on Sunday, then you get a meal after church. And I know that some people just go to church so they can get the meal. I mean, and that's not. I didn't go to Schaefer with the expectations of getting any food or nothing. That was just something that was offered to me. And I don't know if that is just me, like, because my faith and the way I think church should be, because I never have gone to a great big large church. I mean, my church at home is like 12 people regular, and 4 of them 12 is my family. So, I mean, so it's real. It's just kind of strange, like when all those people. I don't know. It just seemed like the place to be.
Yeah, it is.
If you go to church, and then like it seems like if you don't go to Union,
you don't go to church.
Then you don't go to church. Then you're a heathen. You don't.
It's a very kind of prominent church in the black community. And I would love to see it. And kind of like back to what I'm saying, I would love to just see that church. I mean, that church has so much potential. They could be that one-stop shop, especially for the Whiteley community. They
have a lot of, even the kids that aren't Ball State people, it's like a young group of people that, Pastor
Lots
Jackson,
of children.
He's fairly young, lots of little kids, lots of like married couples with kids, and I don't know. It just seems like maybe they are, maybe they do that. Maybe
even ever tried to, like, have you ever felt like they've tried to include you, or like you meaning the Catholic community, within like any of their events? I mean, like, I know, like,
definitely not. Because we're just like a cult.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
so
so
the black
weird to me.
community, we're like a cult.
Like,
It's not even a religion.
because most black people don't really realize. Well, they probably don't realize their religion came from Judaism, which came from, and then, you know,
Right.
and then came Catholicism, and then came you. So you come from a branch that's so much, you know, and most people think,
Further from what you think it
you know,
is.
that Judaism is not right either, you know.
Right. But that's where we all
Everybody, if, you know, so, I don't know.
Is that like? You said they're like an indie. That's not a typical reaction in the African American community. I mean, this is like a Muncie
Definitely.
phenomenon, I guess.
Maybe it's a small town thing.
Or I guess a regional. I should say a regional phenomenon, like a smaller town.
I think it may be a small town
small
thing.
town,
It's like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think any black people go to the Catholic Church in Princeton.
But I think a lot of, especially African Americans, I guess, they kind of get introduced. If you want your child to go to a private school, a lot of the private schools are Catholic, so that's kind of like a way to say, let me introduce you to a good education, but also to a religion, a faith. You know, and I think a lot of people become familiar with Catholicism that way. But
How was your mother introduced to it?
she was just raised.
Raised Catholic.
Yep. She was just raised.
So it's a family. I mean,
Not well. Of my mother's brothers, she has 2 brothers and a sister. None of them are practicing Catholics. There's like a Protestant, a non-denominational, 2 Protestants, I think, and a non-denominational. So I guess my family's kind of liberal. Like, you know, if this will be introduced to you, but it's not going to be like a whole.
Your mom grew up in Princeton, and she practiced?
She grew up in Princeton. She lived there until she was real young. And then, but they would spend like summers in Princeton. But they moved to Indianapolis and they moved here.
Okay.
So, but I just don't think that, and especially since there's not a big African American Catholic population here, you know, would I expect a pastor from an African American church to say, we want a predominantly white church, plus you're Catholic, and we want to do something, you know, with you? I just don't think it's there. You know, because like I said, if you reach out, I guess I kind of sympathize with pastors, because if you reach out to certain people, you got a lot of explaining to do. You know, if you say, yes, we're going to work with this Catholic group, then that means you got to be able to say, this is what Catholicism really is, and really have to be.
To explain it to your congregation as well, because I guess you would have to overcome a lot of stereotypes.
Right. In both ways too, because I think it's not, it would have to be a joint effort. You know, like the priest and the pastor is going to have to sit down, and they're going to have to work things out first before they bring their congregations together. So,
Which is always an interesting conversation.
Yeah. And I guess there's a lot. I don't know. I think that you say, well, Catholics have like a lot of sacraments, and you can't do this and you can't do that. But there's a lot of other a lot of other churches that have the same, kind of rules. Or I guess the one thing that I think about is I have a cousin actually who's not a practicing Catholic, and her son goes to St. Lawrence. And so we went to the Oktoberfest, which is like the big thing in October, and they have a festival at the school. So I was like, well, I'm going to come along and join with you. Well, they had kind of like a beer farm or something like that at the Oktoberfest, and the priest was there, and he was drinking. He had a beer.
Yeah.
Okay. And so my cousin is like, oh my Lord, the priest is in. Did you see the priest is in there? And they got, and it's kind of like you have to say, you're human. in no place in the Bible did it say, "Thou shalt not drink."
You could have put it on him and be like, you're a Catholic married?
Right. Right. But it's kind of like, it's kind of like, yeah.
Everyone thinks that way.
Yeah. But in a lot of other churches, if you go to a lot of other churches, they say don't drink. Alcohol. Yeah. Alcohol is bad for you. You're not supposed to drink under any circumstances. So it's just kind of funny.
Yeah. Do they have the gambling games there too?
Sometimes. We had like the casino night. Bingo's a big thing. That's like a fundraiser at the Catholic. They have bingo on the church announcements. Bingo.
They got bingo to tear off tickets.
Mm-hmm. Pull tabs.
7 over and under.
Yeah. So.
Duck races.
It's just kind of tons of stuff. So, but yeah, it's kind of funny.
You said that Indy had black Catholic churches?
There's a black Catholic church in Indianapolis called Holy Angels.
Now is it like not only black then?
Mm-hmm.
I've been asking different people. It's like, why do you think there are they're essentially people are segregating themselves in service-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is? It happens in all churches. Not all churches. Well, a lot
I think
of churches,
it really deals. It's really the same. I think comes like to the style of service. If you want a little bit more upbeat music.
So there is a difference in service.
Not all black Catholic churches that I've been to have kind of been like roaring, choirs and all that. A lot of them have really kind of just the same format. It might be like a little different, like songs maybe, but it's still not upbeat. I think the main difference that I see, there's a lot, like if you go to a bigger city, there's a lot of younger people involved in black Catholic churches, like the young kids that go to school there. Mm-hmm. And then they're actually being altar boys and altar girls during Mass, or they are actually doing the readings, or they're doing some type of participation. So I think there's a lot more like younger school age. Now once again, once you get to our age level, it kind of breaks off, and then then you have like the older people. But we do kind of segregate ourselves. But I think in the instance of Holy Angels, it just happens to be that they're in a predominantly black neighborhood. Yeah. So it's if it's 1 block away from me, I'm not going to drive 15 minutes to go to some other church.
Just for the cultural
experience. Right. The cultural experience.
Well, I find it interesting overall. Because, you've heard people say that, Sunday morning is the most segregated hour of America.
It is. And it would be interesting just to see, like, if Union moved their church to the other side of town, who would be the congregation? Would all those people travel? We're not even talking a large distance. We're talking maybe 10 minutes. Yeah. But would people actually go?
That's kind of an interesting thing, because Christ Temple did move to a predominantly white neighborhood, but then the neighborhood changed. Because people did continue. Now, did the neighborhood change naturally, or was it because
I think the neighborhood was on the move.
It was on the move.
On the move.
Did that accelerate the change or anything?
Maybe.
There's no way to answer that particularly, but
I think evidence would support it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find some kind of That's true. I never really thought about that. But it really, it's interesting. But I don't blame them, because the land is cheaper in our neighborhoods. So you can build a little bit cheaper in our neighborhoods right now. So.
Any follow-up? Any last
I guess,
questions?
how big a role does religion play in your daily life?
Ooh.
That's usually Jessica's question.
It's, I try and and pray and meditate, and I think it really kind of helped me in my everyday life, because for 8 years of my life I went to Mass every day except for Saturday. You know, and I think it's given me a unique perspective. My religion my faith, I guess I should say, has definitely grown. You know, I think to say that you have faith at 5, I'm not really sure. You know, you can have you understand God, and you understand that there's a higher power, and I understand that this is what's being taught to me, but do you really have faith, and has your faith really kind of been tested? You know, and I think that's a lot. If your faith has been tested, if you live in this small box where you don't put yourself out there for temptation to kind of grab onto you, know, then can you really say that you have faith, because you've never really been tested? I think to say faith is to say that, yes, I've been confronted with so and so, but I know to say yes or to say no because of my faith. You know, and I don't think if I lived in some, you know, isolated world and I said, well, I'm not going to go to the club, or I'm not going to go to the movies because I don't want to be tempted. You know, I think you need to have temptation in your life just so that you can say, I have faith, and that I know faith is real to me. Because it's really hard. I actually went to school with an atheist, and that was just like, you know, if you can sit down and tell an atheist, this is what faith is, and this is what religion is to me, then that's a good thing. But I don't think a lot of people can do that. You know, because there's so much of this is what's, I think it's a part of this is what's taught, but then you have to take what is taught and you have to make it your own.
Yeah. I mean, I don't make me uncomfortable. Like, as long as you have a faith. I mean, you could be, I got Hindu friends.
Right.
But when someone says I'm atheist, I mean, that just kind of, you know, it makes me, like, it's a little bit harder to relate, I guess, you know?
It's hard to relate, but then I think because faith is such an abstract thing, you know, and what my definition of faith probably will not match with anyone else's definition of faith, it really, you know, it's a good exercise. I mean, I would recommend anyone to kind of have a conversation with the atheist and really just say, this is why, and actually be challenged. You know, it's one thing to be sitting around with a bunch of Christians and everybody say, yeah, we believe in God, or yeah, we believe, you know, but then like you said, have you ever had a conversation with a person of a Hindu faith or someone who's a practicing Jew? You know, who has those different experiences, and to be able to say, you know, well, wow, you know, like to say there are similarities, you know, and to really kind of think about, you know, are there ways that you can kind of incorporate those practices into your own? I had a class in Hindu, and we went to the meditation temples and stuff like that, and I was just like, hey, you know,
my best buddy is a Brahmin. I mean, well, he eats like hamburgers all the time, so he's not exactly trash. I mean, like, where he's still in India, I mean, he's from the Brahmin class and everything.
Right. And I mean, meditation is something that came from like a Hindu faith, but it's something that can be practiced by we all need to have time to stop and not think about anything, and be able to say, okay, I recognize, you know, this sound or something, but I'm going to go back and reflect. You know, and not necessarily, you know, faith is, it's difficult. It's a difficult subject, you know, because it means something different. You can't hold it, you can't touch it, you can't say, you know, if you have faith, I can't say you don't have faith, or you can't say that I don't have faith. You know, because it's all.
When we talk to atheists, a lot of times you'll find out that really science is like a faith. You know.
Right. So
I'm sorry, I could take that up. Kind of another question along the same lines, but I mean, like, just talking to people, there's a lot of, I guess, God and, you know, conversely, Satan plays a different role in a lot of people's life. I mean, how do you see, I guess, God or Saint and working in, like, is it in an abstract sense, or is it in, like, if you, I guess, you talk to some people, like, if they have good fortune, then God directly was working in your life, as opposed, I mean, like, how direct of a role do you feel that those...
I guess I would say, I would be able to say, like, God has blessed me or the Lord has blessed me.
Mm-hmm.
I think you look at God and you look at Satan and you say that Satan is bad, but if something bad happens to me, I don't say that's Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if you... that kind of discourages people from faith, because if you say, well, if I'm a believer and I go to church, then why do bad things happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to look at it all to the good, as where life is not going to be some easy little holiday that we're just all going to fly through and it's going to be all good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that God tests us. We're living our lives for a reason, whatever those reasons may be, and I am going to come upon bad times, but that doesn't mean my life is going to be bad or that God has it out for me. So I don't really, and I think that's something that's a little bit different in the Catholic faith, that there's not a lot of Satan. And the devil, the devil made me do this, and the devil did that, and the devil's out to get you. There's none of that really.
Churches, I mean, like my denomination, that's pretty much like what you're saying. That's how, I mean, that's my perception.
And it's more like taken from the fact, God's never going to give us more than what we can bear, and that's it. But it's not like Satan's out to get you, and Satan's doing this, and Satan's doing that. And I don't really take it to be that. I just take it as God has arranged my life this way, and I'm living my life this way for a reason. And that's it.
That was a good question.
Oh no. Whew. Woo. This has been neat.
I think you need to talk to a lot of our groups, actually. I think a lot of our groups need to talk to you.
You guys have my number. Just give me a call.
I need a correct spelling on the name.
Okay. Do I need to finish that?
Yeah.
Actually, while you do it too, I was ask a kind of a closing question. If you don't have anything else, Jessica.
Oh, I'm scared.
Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you could think of? I mean, as an insider to Muncie.
We could talk for days.
Well, I mean, particularly on like religion, like, is there some aspect that we really haven't touched on or should explore further or haven't grasped?
I think it's interesting that a lot of white churches run their church as a business. Black churches don't at all. If you would ask a pastor, do they view their church as a business? I think it has like a negative stereotype. I think it's more like we're open to the community. This is a place of worship. I think if we approached a church as a business, then we would be able to utilize the church for different things.
So I guess the church is an entity, like a community. I mean, it's kind of part of the community as opposed to a business. I mean, is that what you're saying?
I mean, I think, as a business, you want to gain new membership. You want to be able to fund different programs. You want to be able to build to leverage your finances and things like that. And I think in order to run a successful church, like to provide those programs for your congregation or to build your new church or whatever, you have to approach it from a business perspective. And I think it would be a lot easier for churches, in our community to approach it that way.
Do you think you give up something though by doing that? I mean, by running your church like a business, do you lose something?
I don't think so. I'll give you a good example. There's Union Church that's out on Broadway.
Okay.
They build like a youth center, you know, they're busing kids, they're doing different activities, you know, but that's a way, they're running it as a business to say, okay, we need to invite these different kids, but we'll also preach our message to them at the same time. You know, I don't think that black churches,
Because we're kind of like, come if you want. I mean, it's like not a active like recruitment. Like,
yeah, and it's more like this is a place to like social, I don't want to say socialize, but there is a large part of going to church is just socializing, you know, and I think there's a negative, when you say business, you just think like money hungry, thieves, but at the same time, you still need to have that type of organization, even even as a faith-based organization, you still need to have those business aspects come into play. I don't think that should be looked upon as a negative. I think it would help.
Yeah.
You know, if you had a little bit of like, you know, sense to it, I guess.
I can see that. A little bit more like pragmatic thought, you know, like kind of, yeah.
And I, like I said, I think it's really hard for churches because we see churches as only being, we're just here to feed our flock. But there's so many different ways to feed your flock. And there's so many different ways to teach scripture and to do different activities all at the same time.
Does that go back to maybe like they need a little bit younger leadership again, or younger, you know, new ideas, you think?
I think
liberalism?
New ideas, I think, yeah, they're going to have to be a lot, they're going to have to be accepting. If the church folk are really, you know, they want to say, yeah, we love our neighbor, but
yeah.
that's not, we'll be the first people to judge.
Centuries of warfare can attest to how much loves it. I mean, you know.
Exactly. So, you know, we got to be able to do it. I could talk to you guys for days. No, it's not 30s too.
That's what we like to hear. You need to talk to my girlfriend, Scoop. Well, they're doing her, the education one. You actually, I think you might have met her. Her name's Carrie. She's like got real. Yeah. I don't know if it's down that day or not. If it's down, it's like down to here. But she's. But
yeah, because
also,
it's even weird. Like in the master's program, I'm the only black in the business program.
We have one.
In the MBA program at Boston.
Wow. But even in anthropology, we have one black student. That, I mean, since I've been 4 years since I've been here, like undergrad or grad, I mean, we study other cultures. You know, we need like.
Right, you need to be able to.
Traditionally, I mean, even it was anthropology always been open to women and minorities, and yet we none.
You're in the
MBA program.
Yeah.
Do you know Obi?
Yeah. And like, but Obi he'll graduate this year. You know, so he's gone, and there was a guy when I first came in. And after Obi's gone, it's just me, and then it's like. Then I turn around, not only do I not see anybody who looks like me, there's no females.
Wow.
Yeah. I sit in a group with a bunch of guys. You know, it's like some of the comments now that they make, I'm like, I'm starting to feel they just see me as one of the guys.
Yeah.
You know? And it's kind of like, oh, that's not cool.
Yeah.
That's not cool. So yeah, it's really.
She works nonprofit organization too. Yeah, she's thinking about getting involved in, like, just recently she's had an interest.
Do you have any more questions? I'm gonna turn this off. Sorry.